Peace, man. It's the Hood Mystic representing hoodmystic.com. You can reach me at hoodmystic@gmail.com at any time. We're just going to get right into this thing. Today we're talking about Kanye West. Kanye West Explained. This is a Hood Mystic Astrological Analysis where I'm taking Kanye West's birth chart and I'm transposing it against the current transits, and I'm making some observations, and I'm going to use some pictures to kind of illustrate what the astrology is saying. And I really want this video to be a real teaching tool to how we use astrology. I find I'm not really like into the event or the spectacle of it all. I'm just really into the astrology of it all, because looking at the astrology is very interesting. So, looking at Kanye's birth chart, the first thing that jumps out at you is his 10th house placements in the sign of Taurus. And if you listen to my last video about the new moon in Taurus, which is happening May 15th, you'll find that interesting. And so what's interesting about having this planetary conjunction in the sign of Taurus in the 10th house, it has everything to do with the voice. Now, Kanye's voice is interesting to say the least. He has a masculine energy that he carries, and he has a feminine energy that he carries, and he also has pain in his voice. Now, that's Mars, that's Venus, and that's Chiron, all in the 10th house in the constellation of Taurus. That's the 10th house speaks to success, your career, okay? So using his voice in the 10th house is the earth. So from this point, you can understand why Kanye West is successful in the area of success. Come on, bro. Tripping. Who does that? Anyways, it's live, bro. So anyways, 10th house. So career, learning how to be successful. And when I said that this video should be a teaching tool, you need to figure out where your 10th house is at in your chart and what planets or alignments affect your 10th chart if you're concerned about career. 9 times out of 10, you probably don't have much 10th house placements if you're not really concerned about career. You're just happy working a 9 to 5 and things of that nature, which is cool. But as in reference to Kanye, when I talked about in my last video, I talked about the Uranus transit, how it was entering into Taurus. Funny thing about Kanye, he has that cluster of planets in that same exact spot. And when we talk about a transit Uranus does not move fast. A transit Uranus moves very, very slowly. And so the planets that I'm going to talk about are the slower moving planets, transit planets, that are actually conjunct Kanye West's natal chart. This is very interesting because Uranus being on top of this cluster, Mars, Venus, and Chiron, means that shit is shifting and things are changing. And since it has not even fully, as of today is May 2nd, it has not even fully gotten to Taurus yet. May 15th it goes into Taurus. So basically what I'm saying is we haven't seen anything yet. And so a majority of Kanye's planets are in the 9th, 10th, 11th, and on the cusp of the 12th. But we're just going to, for conversation's sake, we're just going to say 9th, 10th, and 11th houses. Even though he has things in different areas. This is ridiculous. Is that Kanye? Yeah, nigga, I'm spilling the beans. Anyway, this is crazy. Come on, neighbor. Stop player hating. And so, Kanye, back to Kanye. 9th, 10th, and 11th houses. And so when you speak to the ninth, 10th, and 11th houses, you speak to more of what will I do for the world? Now, if you have a cluster of planets in, let's say, the first, second, third, fourth houses, is what can I do for myself? What can I do for my family? But Kanye, his planetary alignment is majority, ninth, 10th, 11th houses. His sun and moon, ninth, 10th, 11th house. You want to know where your house placements is. That's why time of birth, very important when doing an astrological chart, because we really want to know where the house placements are. So, moon is in the ninth house. The ninth house is ruled by Sagittarius. And so the ninth house is really about being mentally perceptive. So his inner world, his world is not thinking about, so you may not identify with Kanye if you're just like an everyday type of person, because his inner dialogue is not thinking about what he can do for himself all the time. For a lot of his inner thoughts is how is he going to impact or relate to the world. So when you don't understand that, when he speaks, and he's really coming from an inner dialogue place of not just how he feels about himself, but how he feels about his relationship to the world. And that's different. 10th house, like I said, the 10th house is where your midhaven is. Your midhaven is your career, where you're going in life. So having a south node in that placement, he's really tapping into past lives of him being uber successful. And him feeling that, and him having this planetary influence in the 10th house, he has conflicting issues about fame. And his voice, because it's in the 10th house, right? But it's in two different signs in the 10th house when referring to his south node and his cluster of his conjunction of Mars, Venus, and Chiron. So even though they're in the 10th house, they're in two different signs. So, and the two different signs in the energy are conflicting. So on one side of his career path is that he has to deal with his past lives and that fame and rectifying that. But I feel as though it's a misidentification that he feels that that is his life path. But ultimately, he is going to reduce his view on society based on the fact that that's not his goal. His goal was not to become famous. It's just where he got caught up at was when he was born with the Sun Jupiter conjunction in the 11th house in Gemini, which then gave him dualistic thoughts to begin with, on top of everything that goes on his chart basically is built on dualism. So he can't be right or wrong and be true to himself. And so being an 11th house sun sign, which I am myself, so I identify with that, is trying to find people who exist in that sphere of not being right or wrong, but accept me, accept me for my thoughts, even though you don't agree with them. So in expressing his thoughts, he's tribe searching, and he's trying to be more centered in what his truth is, because his truth is not fame and success. His truth is really coming to terms with that. But we'll really deal with it. Once again, just pointing out the natal conjunction of that Mars, Venus, Chiron in the first degree of Taurus, first, second degrees of Taurus in the 10th house. And what's going to happen when Uranus fully transits into Taurus, and how that is going to bring a lot of shifts and a lot of changes into his personal life. Uranus is known to bring all types of things, especially for Kanye West. Every time Uranus transits, something crazy happens. In 2003, Uranus transited into Pisces. He got into that accident. He broke his jaw. When Uranus was conjunct his moon in Pisces, he lost his mother, 2007. When Uranus transited into 2011, he released that album with Jay-Z, Watch the Throne, which is probably like one of the last great hip-hop albums, in my opinion. Like one of those last albums where you could just sit and really listen to, and like everybody was like, this is a great album. So now that Uranus is transiting once again into Taurus and gearing up, he's about to drop an album. So, you know, it's all promotion at the end of the day. And so Kanye West has a particular, opposed to that 10th house that we just talked about, opposed to that is a 4th house placement of Pluto. Pluto in Libra in the 4th house says that my closest friends have to be of the plutocracy, of the wealthiest, of the top 1%. I want to connect to the higher echelon of people. Now, this could be a good thing, but left unchecked, you look like Kanye West. And so you may not understand Kanye, but looking at his astrology chart, when he says, I just love Donald Trump. I just love Donald Trump. Well, he's speaking from his Pluto and Libra being misidentified. Him actually feeling like he actually loves Donald Trump. No, he's dealing with unchecked psychological issues. So when we deal with astrology, we deal straight with the psychology. We deal straight with the mind. We don't have to, we can point out all of the shit. We can understand everything that's happening. So you see this picture with him and Jay-Z, you can understand that Pluto and Libra. His expression is like, Jay-Z is my friend. Kim Kardashian is my wife. I spoke to Donald Trump. Kris Jenner is my mother-in-law. Like, these are just, this is sickness. This is insanity. But if you were to understand that, and a lot of us have Pluto and Libra, because that's a generational thing. So our generation, we have to really be aware of our relationship to celebrities, because Pluto and Libra really create an unhealthy relationship with celebrities. If left unchecked, you know, you may be doing things for people, degrading yourself for the price of fame. And so want to just talk about his album real quick and highlight this Mars transit that's happening in Capricorn. As of today, May 2nd, Mars is in Capricorn and it's on its way out. His album is released June 1st, Love Everybody. And when that album released, Mars will be conjunct the South Node in Aquarius. So Mars conjunct South Node is actually Mars opposed North Node. So I'm talking about his album not because it's going to be a great album. I'm talking about his album if you were looking for a good time to create an impact, or if you were looking for a zone to start a project, to launch your website, to, you know, get your business out there. This is a good zone because Mars is coming out of Capricorn. So what you've been working on, what you've been cooking up over the summer, like once Mars steps out of Capricorn into Aquarius, because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. Uranus and Aquarius, they complement each other. So things that happen in Uranus, indirectly or directly, happens also with Uranus. So I don't know if I said that. Things that happen in Aquarius, when things are happening in Aquarius, you want to look at what's happening with Uranus too, because Uranus rules over Aquarius, and Aquarius and Uranus have similar aesthetics and things of that nature. So I like Uranus energy because I work with Uranus energy. I'm not scared for things to change. Now, you may not be that way. So, I'm talking about Uranus and I'm talking about Taurus because this is a terrestrial change. Taurus is a terrestrial sign. So, when Uranus enters into Taurus, the world will change. And you may be afraid because you like the way things are. So, back to the album, back to June 1st, back to you putting things out to really make an imprint. Now, we talk about astrology because we more or less use astrology for when we're trying to do shit. Now, if you're not doing anything and you're just like a regular person and you just want to just go to work and hope everything is cool, then astrology probably isn't for you. But if you're trying to start projects and trying to figure out your life path and figure out your psychology, figure out your relationships, figure out your career and things of that nature, astrology is excellent. And so love everyone. What I'm about to talk about next is the Chiron aspect and the Saturn aspect in his chart. Now, this is a picture of the surgeon who operated on his mother when his mother passed away. The concept of this album cover is him learning to love everyone, even the person that killed his mother. And it's like a lesson in forgiveness. That is the surface idea. Under the surface is the unexpressed rage that he has towards his father. Everything that Kanye West truly expresses is based upon his lack of love from his father. And when unaddressed, we just simply look for things to fill that void. And this is good. This can be horrible if you actually have the resources to fill the void. Generally, what happens, which is a good thing, we may have an addiction. And that addiction may cause us to lose money, may cause us to lose our house. So we realize, like, I need to do something about my addiction. I need to do something about my psychology because I'm homeless. But when you are terrestrial, when you have a lot of signs in Taurus and you're resourceful, then that becomes an Achilles heel for you because you never fully address your psychological issues because you're always able to maintain a level of prosperity and a level of respect. But that doesn't matter because when we talk about psychology, if you're a billionaire or if you have $2 in the bank, astrology is beneficial. We want to talk about Neptune conjunct his natal moon. Because in his rants and in his Twitter posts, there are streams of consciousness that you can really be like, this is some deep shit or this is some real shit. Where is this coming from? When Neptune sits on top of your natal moon in Pisces, all of this energy is exalted. All of this energy is present. Now, you come across crazy or you come across as genius when this happens. I think I'm talking about Kanye West, y'all. Ninth house, mental. So this is what's happening to him, right? So this isn't something that's going to end unless like something really crazy happens. But when Uranus is in the picture, you cannot rule out anything, especially if you are not mindful and you are not in preparation for change. But Kanye definitely is in preparation for change. Listen to his 2 interviews that he has on TMZ. Listen to the one where he's talking about opioids at the very end. He's like, all of that changes today. So he really understands the moment. He really understands that things are changing. And I wouldn't imagine him not to have a cold ass astrologer as much money as he has. So I'm like, these things are not like crazy or weird. It's just really what's happening. So Chiron, before I get to that, Chiron Uranus conjunct Chiron creates a volcano of emotion, because Uranus conjunct Chiron is like a long time period of you and your true self coming to the forefront. The changes that present your real self to the public, since we're dealing with the 10th house. We talked about the 10th house at the beginning of the video. So his pain is evident, but if you don't have Chiron in the 10th house, where your pain is your career, then you wouldn't understand this. So when he talks about his opioid usage, you may be doing opioids but not be so freely to divulge that information because your Chiron is not in your 10th house. Your Chiron is probably, it may be in your 10th house, and you may be the type of person that, advocates against, human trafficking and things of that nature, because you was once human trafficked. So now you make your living as advocating against human traffickers and get paid for speaking events and things of that nature. That's a Chiron in 10th house. So him just talking about his opioid addiction and being on TMZ, one of the most largely watched publications in the world, that's a form of masochism. And him talking about slavery being a choice, that's a form of trolling. When you do not deal with your psychology, you start to embody and create these dark, negative psychological patterns. And all of this happening in the 10th house, if it's not unchecked, he feels as though that this is cool because people are responding. But the type of people that are responding are the narcissists, the Machiavellianists, and the psychopaths. Psychopaths just speak to mental illness. Narcissism means that you are just concerned with the material world. You cannot see a spiritual undertone to it. So everything that is material is real, and everything spiritual is vague, and like, let them just be spiritual over there, when in reality it's the opposite. But Machiavellianism is a idea that a human being adopts when they want to become successful, and they may not be talented like classically trained pianists, so I just sample beats and things of that nature. So I'm manipulating the public to think that I'm some form of a genius, when if you look at his body of work, he doesn't create music, he samples music, and he hires writers and he hires musicians, and that may be a form of geniusness, but it's also a form of manipulation. And for so long, it adopts into your character, and you put all of these three things together, then you don't want to be known for your talent any longer. You want to be known for, making a stance or saying something that people have never heard before and things of that nature, which all of his ideas aren't relatively new. Like, I've said what he said like plenty of times, 5 times over. So generally, you have this dark triad, and it's just him trying to get attention for his album, and you may not understand it because all he would have to do is really just release it, and he wouldn't have to do any of this. But in his psychology, since a lot of it is unchecked based upon him being successful, so it's like, even in the interview, he's telling his man to go get him opioids. Like, he don't have to walk down Broad Street and solicit pill dealers and things of that nature. He just reached the point that he doesn't have to deal with his psychology, and this is what it looks like. I'm not gonna get too much off topic, but I was looking at Kanye West, and I was looking at the Graduation CD, and not seeing like these pillars, and it made me think of the Revenge of the Nerds. So when I thought about Revenge of the Nerds, I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. But this is like pure conspiracy, and after this, I'm done. But just think about this for a second. Revenge of the Nerds is a movie about a group of guys who want to get accepted into a university like fraternity, but they are quote unquote nerds. Now, all of these dudes aren't nerds. Some of them are just outcasts. And the two outcasts in particular are Lamar Letrell and Takashi. Lamar Letrell is a black, quote unquote, effeminate male. And when they get to school, none of the fraternities accept them except Lambda, Lambda, Lambda. The interesting thing about Lambda, Lambda, Lambda is that it is an all black fraternity. And they're not all black. But they do have Lamar Letrell. So Lamar Letrell ends up being their front, or the reason that they get accepted into Lambda, Lambda, Lambda. Do you know how Lamar Letrell got them accepted? He was a rapper. And so when you look at his videos where he's rapping in the chair and around him is a bunch of like nerdy like Caucasian men, then the concept of Revenge of the Nerds, it might really open up to you. So in a long story short, like, it's a lot of different things going on. Just really look at his interviews and really look at it from an astrological, psychological point of view. And what's very important is don't put your mind on Kanye West's mind, because if you were to do that, or if you do that to any person, then automatically they become wrong and you become right, and that's really not going to help anything. It's best to really understand a person as an individual and understand that we all have free will. So to sit back and judge and point fingers, you're really not doing nobody any service whatsoever, and you really just holding hot stones and damaging yourself. So really let that go. Really deal with the psychology of yourself, and by doing so, you might need to contact me for a reading. Like I said, if you need to contact me, hoodmystic@gmail.com. Always check the site. And if you want to schedule a face-to-face reading, you might be in the Columbus, Ohio, or surrounding areas, be sure to check us out at the Spirit of Temperance, man. We're on 1273 West Broad Street. And that was my presentation. This is my opinion. Hope y'all liked it. Hope it made you think a little bit more and you feel better afterwards. So, man, hit me up. I'm available. It's the Hood Mystic. I'm signing out. Peace.